Hi. I know what most of you are thinking right now. How can one not blame Trump for what's happening in America and even across the globe? No matter where you look today, be it Twitter, be it political debates on news channels, everybody's going crazy with the narrative that Trump did this, Trump did that, he's a horrible person, he's responsible for the mess we are in today. In America, it's Trump. In Brazil, it's Bolsonaro. In UK, it's Boris Johnson. In Hungary, it's the Prime Minister. In India, it's Modi. Everybody, everywhere is blaming individuals who occupy leadership position in their respective countries for the disaster their countries are today. And that's wrong. Yes, I'll reiterate the topic of my video today that we should stop blaming Trump because he is not responsible for the situation that we all are in today. And you know what's more surprising? It's not only average people. When I say average people, I mean the common man. It's not only the common man who come forward with such assertions like Trump did this, Trump did that. It's the leaders of our society who are putting forth that kind of assertion. For example, internationally renowned philosophers, leaders of the left, great scholars. And when they put forward such assertions, it should be a sign that we should start thinking, because that's not what exactly we require right now when we all aspire for a change in our society, in our world. And I'll explain you why. Now, there are only a few points that we need to understand before we understand the whole dynamics. And before we go to point number one, we have to come up with a term that we can use to describe those people who are personalizing their attack on Trump. Let's call them people against Trump. Okay, so people against Trump has two categories. Number one are those people who have intellectual capacity to understand how the system works, because they have time and they have the luxury to engage in any kind of institutional analysis of system. Now, category number two, these people are those people who can be referred to as the common man. Now, these people are busy struggling with their lives. They have to make their ends meet. And that's why these people do not have the time and the luxury to engage in any kind of institutional analysis. And that's why they do not possess the requisite contextualization tools to understand the facts. And that's why these people should be excused when we are deliberating over analysis. Now, point number one. The subcategory of intellectuals under the category of people against Trump repose their faith in democracy. It means that they believe in democratic principles. Now, while they are personalizing their attacks against people like Trump and Bolsonaro, they are forgetting that these people have been given to us by democracy itself. So when they are individualizing the whole thing, blaming Trump and Bolsonaro, in fact, they should be taking into account the flaws that our democracy has. Why? Because people follow democratic principles, they participate in the democratic process, and that democratic process is giving us people that are at times being referred to as dictators. Now, how can democracy give us dictators? It means that there is some corrupt aspects of democracy that need to be reformed. And that's why intellectual class, instead of focusing on the result of the flawed democratic process, should focus on democratic process. Why? Because these people might change. Any Tom, Dick, and Harry can become the result of democratic process in future, right? But at the same time, that person will have the discretion to behave the way he wants. And that cannot be cured by targeting these people. That can be cured by understanding what problem our democracy has and how can we correct it. So the conclusion of point number one is this, that if we want our democratic process to give us people who are really democratic in every sense of the term, then we should focus not on the result of that democratic process, but the process itself. We have to make sure that the way our democracy functions, it doesn't allow anybody who has dictatorial tendencies to become our leader and grab the power. Now, coming to point number two, which I think is more important and much more broad, whenever leaders like Trump, they take any decision, those decisions are within the ambit of law. And law is something that governs our system. So you have to understand this thing very clearly. A leader takes a decision. That decision is not taken in a dictatorial way. When we look at the whole systemic approach towards that decision, it means that that decision becomes the law. But whenever people are targeting Trump for taking that decision, they are forgetting that the decision pertains to law. So instead of targeting this individual, people should target the approach of law, because as I usually tell everybody, that law is a means to an economic end. Even if it's not a means to an economic end, law is something that lacks validity. So in conclusion, it can be said that the decisions, no matter how bad they are, no matter how much are they against the public, the leaders like Trump and Bolsonaro are able to take those decisions because law gives them the discretion, because the system allows them to take those decisions. And that's why intellectuals, whenever they are targeting those individuals, should remind themselves that it's the discretion those individuals have in the systemic context that allows them to take those decisions. And that's why instead of targeting those individuals, the intellectuals should target the law or the system that allows them to do so. There is one more reason which forces us to shift to systemic approach from an individualized one. For example, if our current flawed, corrupt democratic process affords us a leader in future that has very good intentions and wants to do everything good for the mankind, even in that case, there is always a possibility that that leader could exercise the discretion, because the system is so flexible that it can be skewed in the interest of certain people. And that's why we should try to focus on systemic approach so that that flexibility is not there. The concept of rule of law makes sense only if law is not a toy in the hands of those who want to treat the constituents of our system left or right or according to their whims and fancies. So that's why I reiterate that those people, those intellectuals in fact, who are targeting individuals like Trump are deflecting from the main issue, because actions of these leaders are totally legal, despite the fact that we have an institution called judiciary. Because, for example, in a country like America, every judge is appointed by the president, the person who makes those decisions. So independence of judiciary is merely a fiction. It doesn't exist in reality in every sense. And that's why stop targeting these individuals, target the system which allows these individuals to use their discretion. And one more thing before I go. I know that you all feel angry because whenever you see leaders like Trump and Bolsonaro take such decisions that are bad for humanity, you feel very bad and you want to express your anger. But when you are doing it, you should know that you are not doing anything good to the society, because you are just venting out your anger against an individual that is just doing what that person is supposed to do, because the status quo maintains itself. The system allows that person and gives him the power to do whatever they want to do. So that's why instead of venting out your anger by engaging in very personalized attack on leaders like Trump, Modi, Bolsonaro, or Boris Johnson, you should try engaging in different activities that are not usually the same and are focusing on systemic change rather than changing individuals who occupy those big positions in our society. Because no matter who will come to occupy those positions in future, they will still have the power to engage in any whimsical and arbitrary activity that are being undertaken by today's leaders, and that's not what we want. So, do not blame Trump, Bolsonaro, Modi, Boris Johnson, or the Hungarian Prime Minister. Please strike the system. Thank you so much.